Let's move right on into our next guest, Brendan Carroll. All right, President, CEO of Skycision. Brendan, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate being here.
All right, my pleasure. You've got some new disruptive technology yourself. You're the founder and CEO of Skycision. Let's get into this. The technology startup that provides decision support tools and global agriculture in the global agricultural industry that helps farmers reduce their costs and improve profitability. How does that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of overcapping the problem that we're really trying to solve here as a starting point. Today, there's 2.1 million farms in the United States and 570 million in the world. So we're talking about a massive market that's been the backbone of economies for a long time. But farmers are up against a lot. So in the United States alone, the average farmer loses about 6% of their crops every single year to some undetected form of pest or disease or mold or blight infestation. And in developing countries, this can be north of 30% of their entire yield. And so when you look at really rurally poor areas, you see these individuals being cataclysmically impacted. And so one of the things we look to do is we start by providing aerial imagery captured by drones and satellites to pinpoint the exact areas where these breakouts are happening so they can treat them quicker. And when we start to talk about actually reducing costs of inputs or labor, we're actually fusing other data sources with the imagery, whether it be irrigation or soil quality, to basically say, hey, you should change the way you treat this portion of your field to enhance your productivity or the quality of your crops.
Okay, so I take it this is real-time data relay to the farmer.
Correct, yes. And so we've made it very accessible too. So whether they're on their web or whether they're on their mobile, they can share it with other people in the field. It's completely collaborative oriented and really trying to focus on bringing digital technologies to the farm and making it readily accessible.
I understand this is hardware agnostic. You can use any drone.
That's correct, yes. So we've tightly integrated with the world's largest manufacturer, DJI, to create a mobile app that will fly the drone for the farmer. So the farmer doesn't even have to worry, or whoever's using it doesn't have to learn how to fly anything. They just tap a button on their phone and it takes off and does the mission. For other drones, we can basically process all the data that they capture, but we can't necessarily fly it for them.
Do you have this in the field working now?
We do. So we're mostly working with high-value crops on the West Coast for the moment. We're up in a lot of vineyards in Northern California. We're working with strawberry growers, cranberry growers, and we're starting to see a lot of inbound interest from avocados, orchards, and various nut growers. So very high-value crop focus at this point, but we see this as we scale kind of the premium solution, dropping the cost of the imagery itself to make it accessible to kind of everyone.
What are the biggest challenges that are facing you right now with this?
Well, I think in any company, one of the biggest challenges is managing growth, right? So you have a market that's ready to pull you in. So you get to that point where you have a product market fit where you've produced something and the market wants it, and now you need to scale that, which means you need more engineers, and to scale that, you might need more customer success managers to ensure implementations are going correct. And to do that, you need funding. And so I think in any, especially high growth type companies, there's kind of a perpetual chicken and egg complex of what comes first for the next phase of growth. And so I think that's something that most CEOs are constantly working through. But yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the things we're working through right now as well.
Are you still in the capital formation phase where you're looking to gain access to more capital to grow your business, and just like you had mentioned here a minute ago?
Absolutely, yeah. So we're in the process right now of closing off what we call a seed round. So kind of our first institutional round of financing. We have a venture capital firm that's led the round. We have about another $250K that we're filling out in the next 1.5 to 2 months. And then we'll be raising again a Series A probably about a year down the road from now. And that may be between $5 and $10 million then, probably next September. So, yep, we're definitely raising, and that capital is basically going directly to the growth that I was discussing earlier.
All right, now we're going to go to a break. I want you to come back on the other side of the break. I have several more questions for you, and I want you to lay out the land about where and how you plan to grow the business on the other side. All right?
Okay, sounds like a plan. We'll do.
We'll be right back with Brendan Carroll, President and CEO of Skycision. That's SKYCISION.com. You've been listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba. And this segment is brought to you by Tycon Partners, our title sponsor. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. Thanks for joining us. All right. My guest this segment, Brendan Carroll, President, CEO of Skycision, Skycision.com. Brendan, thanks for coming back on the show. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Now, you've got, we didn't really cover a lot of your background, your personal background, because it's extensive. Can you bring that out a little bit? And then I want to talk about what's going on in the agricultural industry and how Skycision is helping to define that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, originally I was in the field of computer security and information assurance. Did my undergrad at America's oldest private military school, Norwich University. From there, I actually had a contracting offer where the contract would have been in D.C. with the client was the CIA. At the time, though, no details could really be disclosed, and I had a great opportunity in the private sector from Big Four financial services firm Ernst & Young. So I decided to take that route instead. Shortly thereafter, I decided to stay in financial services, but moved over to investment banking in New York, where I worked for Credit Suisse. And then decided to go back to do my master's. And that's kind of where Skycision's idea was conceived. And I realized there's a huge need and there's something that we could do, and kind of start pursuing it full time then.
Okay. Where are we going? Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Where are we going in the future with the agricultural industry, and how does Skycision fit into that thought path that you're going to describe for us?
So at a very macro level, in terms of talking about just global food security, we have 2 billion people that are forecasted to be added to the population by 2050. And in order to feed that population, those producing countries have to increase food productivity by 70%. So you can start thinking from a very macro level of different ways we can innovate, right? Whether that's, moving things indoor into greenhouses or vertical farming. But regardless of any of those kinds of ripples of change, we still have the majority of our farming that's outdoors, and it's exposed to the elements, it's exposed to variability and all kinds of threats. And that's really where Skycision comes in to try to control that, maximize productivity, and really make it more profitable for the grower themselves.
I can see your product being very well received in not just the Americas, but when I say the United States of America, but also in remote areas where farming is not quite as evolved as it is here. It's not as mechanized. It's not as digitized like Latin America. What are your thoughts with that?
So we're actually already seeing a huge amount of inbound interest at an international level, of which we'll probably start seeing deployments in the next 3 to 6 months. So we're talking to operatives in Chile, Argentina, Mexico, Australia, and actually numerous countries in Africa as well, where they've reached out to us as a leader in the field and think that we can help them kind of, really kind of make some substantial strides at a cost-effective level. So you're spot on with that. We've already seen it. And I think as we continue to grow our base here domestically, we'll use that as a platform to scale in strategic international markets.
What about the part where you pick up where satellites leave off? I mean, there's got to be some kind of a gap that you fill from what satellite technology is doing.
Yeah, so satellite imagery is good in the sense that it's been there for a long time. So there's a lot of historic information. So if you can dig that up, which we do, you can kind of see how crops have progressed or how a given farm has progressed over the last 5 to 10 years, right? But the value of really bringing this down to a higher resolution level with the drone collected imagery is you actually cut out all the atmospheric interference of cloud cover or haze in the atmosphere in terms of the image being taken of the crops themselves. Also, the resolution of the photo allows you to basically see the field as you would if you were walking through them. So we can basically see down to a leaf level. You can almost see pests on the leaves themselves. And so we produce that. We produce stress analysis. And then when we start to layer, sensor information coming from whether it be machines or whether it be soil moisture probes in the fields, we can really start giving the grower a comprehensive view of their fields without even have to be in the fields. And that's really what we're trying to get to. So,
as you were growing this company, your baby, you invented it. It's moving, it's getting legs, and it's starting to go down the road. What lessons have you learned as a CEO, a manager of people, a manager of your company, moving forward that you feel is going to pave the path to success in your venture?
It's a great question. So I think honestly, one of the biggest things, especially from a startup standpoint, where you've invented something that hasn't existed in the world before, as opposed to, repeating something that's, a set model, is I think the biggest rule is iteration trumps perfection, right? And so when you see like a lot of potential startups that are research-based, or you have like very, very technical CEOs, they're very product obsessed in the sense that they want to make it 100% perfect. But in order to actually scale a company at this stage, you need those short-term wins. You need those short-term wins to secure a contract. You need those short-term wins to upsell a contract, to secure new investment, to grow your team. And so it's not so much doing one thing perfect, but it's looking at the 20 to 30 different categories that build a good business and constantly incrementing closer to perfection, but also having the realization say, hey, we can't do this on day one. Like, that is the goal, but what is a reasonable time frame in getting there? And so I think a lot of it is making sure that everyone realizes we can't be perfect right away. We're going to iterate, communicating that, and then managing expectations both internally on the team, externally with investors, and with clients. And I think that's such an important part of it is the communication component.
Well, let's keep on that communication component, because now you have to reach your market. And it seems to me that your timing is on point, because we're switching the old generation of farmer from the guy that rode the horse or through the fields to look at the crops to the new generation of farmer that understands understands technologies. And it seems like that handoff from the old guard to the new group, the millennials, are now the farmers, and they're technology friendly. Are you seeing that that my point is being received and actually made with these new people for embracing your technologies? I guess what I'm trying to say.
I've had this conversation before, and you're probably one of the only people I've talked to that I think probably the only person that's picked up on that. And it is a huge element. So when we talk to the new generation of farmers, they're not just embracing of new technology, but they're ambitious, right? Like, they're thinking of how they can grow their business. They're absolutely intrigued by what we're doing. They want to see how can they get involved. Can they resell what we do to their local communities? Can they hire someone that's a drone pilot that goes flying for their neighbors' farms? What can they do? And so I just see this level of ambition really kind of for any new grower under the age of maybe even below 50 or below 45, where we even had one that invested in the company. And they're just, they're real movers and shakers, and they're not, the status quo is not sufficient for them. Doing what, the generations before them isn't sufficient. They want to invest and do better and scale their lands, or, invest in new lines of business. And so it's pretty interesting because we can actually see the generational shift happening right before our eyes as we speak.
Well, that's well put. And I know that they'd be more receptive to your form of marketing, digital marketing, versus the old-fashioned, let's put an ad in the pennies catalog, you know what I mean, or Farmer's Almanac.
Right, exactly.
All right, that's all the time we have for you today, Brendan, but I want to thank you for taking the time of being on our show, and I wish you all the best of luck. I'm going to see if I can do anything to put some people in your direction on that funding side, too.
Great. Yeah, if they go to Skycision.com, there's a submission form right at the bottom of the page. They can drop it in there. I'll get it, and we'll be happy to follow up with them.
Great. Thanks, Brandon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Brendan Carroll, President, CEO, Skycision, Skycision.com.